Ritual Patterns is the latest online exhibition in the Times3 exhibition series by Action Space, Projectability and Venture Arts. This exhibition features work by Quagga Silingi from Action Space, Neelam Ahmed from Venture Arts, and Marina Devlin from Projectability. Ritual Patterns explores these artists' interpretations of rituals, repetition, and pattern. Relishing in colour, pattern and spirituality, Ritual Patterns examines how each of these artists incorporates spirituality into their practice through repetition of shapes, patterns, and spiritual influences.
This artwork is called Untitled Number 1 and has been created by Quagga Silingi from Action Space. This artwork may look like a randomized texture piece that took a day to do, but it's completely far from that. This piece also consists of an ever-overlapping pattern of circular shapes that join together to create this very textural landscape. The piece guides the viewer into what is happening in the textural landscape, which has been constructed with both normal card and circular card for the shapes. Using an array of different colours from light and medium to dark tones such as red, blue, yellow and green, Quagga has put together a very complex but simplified design. Her work has taken on a different approach to the way that abstract paintings are normally done by those who work with this profession. Once Quagga cuts and paints the shapes with the selected colour, each shape is joined and then painted onto the outside, using several layers to form what is known as the crown outline. The crown outline is a term that is used to describe the way that Quagga works using a continuous looping technique, which creates a certain chaining pattern. During this process, she fills in any unwanted gaps that have been left exposed using a single colour only, which acts as the background. In this case, yellow was used. Once the painting is dried in its first stage, she then returns to the piece and applies more randomized loops using different varieties of colours and pinpointing areas of interest to her. Using solid tones, sometimes the loops may be closely interlinked to form a chain. This painting features a series of techniques both originally from abstract painting and her own unique system, combined together in one. Returning to our first artist at the very top of the exhibition, Quagga Silingi, her next artwork is a continuation of the first, in the form of Untitled Number 2. For Untitled Number 2, Quagga again picked up from where she left off, repeating the same techniques as well as the format of how Untitled Number 1 was constructed. Quagga once again uses collage and paint to create a continuous looping technique which creates, in turn, a certain chaining pattern. This work now features a pink background, with pink circular shapes still visible due to some of the other shapes which also surround it, the other coloured ones, in turn, which are yellow, dark blue, orange, dark red and dark green. These shapes were cut and then welded together and then painted on the outside, but once more Quagga plugged in any unwanted areas in the painting using pink to cover up the areas concerned. We're just looking again at the crown outline in stark contrast to the first painting, which featured a diagonal pattern. This one featured a very verticalized pattern instead, with both the yellow and blue colours descending towards the bottom.
Neelam Ahmed has used the Photoshop Touch app on an iPad to create this pair of artworks that show henna patterns for hands, isolated as pale yellow and red lines of light on a pitch-black background. The first piece is Henna Hand 7. This piece has heart shapes at the fingertips, with vertical then horizontal lines below. Where the back of the hand would be, there is a flower-like pattern of concentric circles and petals, and below it, toward the wrist, a red semicircle with lots of small yellow circles running along it. Between the fingers and the flower-like pattern is a red chevron with yellow circles layered across the top. The second piece is Henna Project 18. This piece has simpler red horizontal lines across the fingers, with dots above and below them, and leading down the finger, yellow circles. On the back of the hand area there are spaced out red petal shapes with spirals inside, and the same but smaller and in yellow below by the wrist section, with some red lines splaying outward from the pattern centre. As we normally see henna as a physical piece on someone's hands, it's fascinating to see it isolated and seemingly glowing on a dark background as a digital piece. Perhaps glow-in-the-dark or ultraviolet paint could achieve a similar effect in reality.
This next artwork is known as the Garden of Eden and was created by Marina Devlin from Project Ability. This is a landscape painting which heavily features the natural world and the animals, who play a very important role in it. The Garden of Eden is a very classical take on a more traditional subject. As a viewer, when you first come across this artwork, many questions may come to mind. Why has this artist chosen one of the most well-known religious stories of all time, the Garden of Eden? Well, in this case, Marina has chosen to focus on the natural world and animals in the painting as part of her inspiration, using rich amounts of tone and depth to bring the story to life. It is truly something to behold. The artwork has a very vibrant and strong abstract feel when you first look at it much closer, with the trees having a very light to medium dark tone to them. The animals and the natural world have been very well crafted with a strong amount of care and painstaking detail involved. The other areas of the artwork also play a corresponding role, as well as its meaning behind it. What is also worth noting is the relationship and the communication that is being developed between some of the animals and the two humans. The two humans, which you can refer to as Adam and Eve, are sitting below the tree and are surrounded by a very dark snake hanging off one of them. There is also a group of small white bunnies, as well as lions, tigers, zebras, deers, turkeys, a camel, plus 3 birds flying overhead. And the landscape also plays a significant part in the Garden of Eden, as the mountains and surrounding river give a very strong naturalistic rainforest feel, and also pays homage as well to the famous story. The colour relationships of light and pale green mountains along with the yellow trees in the foreground also add to the scenery that is both very lush and bright for its inhabitants. This second artwork, which once again comes from Marina Devlin, is titled Jungle with the White Stag. Marina portrays both nature and animals in this painting that hallmarks almost everything that you probably would need to know, or that is literally associated with the two subjects involved. Shown here are 4 animals: a young fox, a bigger fox, a deer, which in this case is known as the white stag, and featured down at the bottom right hand corner of the artwork, just in vision, is a frog, who looks like he has camouflaged himself almost to perfection with the way he blends into the yellow and green plants behind him in the background. The other plants that also feature in the artwork are of a different array in both width and sometimes length. A pair of white flowers can also be seen within the work, one next to the young fox, another which is just behind the white stag, and one in front of the bigger fox. There is also an oval-shaped cocoon, which you can see at the top. It has a 4-coloured striped layer starting from bright red to brown and yellow in the middle, and then finally finishing with black at the bottom. Because of the nighttime scenery that Marina has portrayed in the work, the eyes of the foxes are much brighter than usual, as they are glowing with the yellow colour that she has used for them.
Painted with acrylic, Untitled 3 by Quagga Salinghi is a colourful abstract piece in which numerous rows of overlapping rings pass diagonally across a yellow canvas. The rings in each row are the same colour, and each vary between blue, mint, maroon, orange, white, and pink. They are painted loosely, seemingly in one stroke, with visible brush marks and each being a slightly different size and shape to the next. This artwork is vibrant and loose, but avoids being too chaotic by the uniformity of the pattern. It puts bubbles and flower beds into mind. Similar to Untitled 3, Untitled 4 by Quagga Silingi is also made of painted rings, but this time they are more aligned vertically and also less tightly arranged overall. The background is shades of dark green, with the brighter coloured rings of pale yellow and blue standing out boldly. There are also red, grey, dark blue and fuchsia rings, and at the top left are a couple of yellow marks, like a candle flame in shape. Compared with the previous piece, this has a more nocturnal ambience. The yellow and red rings in particular put into mind embers from a campfire, or perhaps fireflies. I also think of fireworks displays and the sparklers people spin around, which could look similar to this piece if captured on a long exposure camera.
This next artwork piece is titled Henna Project Number 12 and has been designed by Neelam Ahmed from Venture Arts. This is a digital artwork that was designed with both a very iconic and distinctive likeness. To create this piece working on a dark black background, Neelam chose a light medium mustard-like yellow colour to create a henna piece. Using a medium thick brush, she produced a series of small, near continuous line drawings, which break up into certain parts along the way to create either a spear or a sword-like shape. Starting from the top right corner, there is a set of 3 horizontal lines running along a vertical line across it to form a DNA-like double helix shape. Also evident in the design are 2 small circular shapes which look like English rose symbols. Neelam alternates both the double helix and English roses to make up the length of the sword shape. As part of her inspiration, she found several photographs of henna designs on the internet which she decided to use as templates for her work. Once she selected her images using the Photoshop Touch application on iPad, she individually traced over each design using multiple layers along with different tones of yellow paint and various brush sizes. Still staying with Neelam, she followed up her first henna project design, this time with Henna Project Number 16. And this piece is literally typical of Neelam's style of digital drawing, and is also similar to the very first artwork that she designed. This piece also has a mixture of not only 2 colours, but of line weights that are also involved in the form of both thicker and thinner lines, which are also supported by dots that are also included. The shapes that are portrayed in this work seem to be very mixed due to the lines used. For example, a large circular shape in the middle that is overlapped by 2 continuous curly outlines, and this is then followed up by a series of thin to medium thick dots bordering on the outside of the second curly outline, which carries onto the inside of the circles, making up a flower pattern. The other randomized patterns that also feature throughout the piece include both dots and stripes, which, when all of them are connected together, make a hand symbol.
This landscape painting by Marina Devlin, titled The Tiger Gets Ready to Sleep, is a stylized scene of a tiger in a jungle, seemingly lying in wait to pounce from out of long grass. In the background, toward the top of the piece, there is a subdued yellow, with 2 greyish-blue tree trunks on the left, and some leafy branches and fronds reaching to the right, with fallen leaves on the far right. The tiger, which has a scarlet coat with dark stripes, occupies the centre left of the piece, and is leaning down, claws extended and teeth bared. The artist seems to play with perspective, as the tiger appears to be floating on top of the tall, wavy grass that fills to the bottom of the piece, which is green with streaks of pale yellow and blue. Three narrow plants with small leaves are also in the foreground in front of the grass. Toward the bottom right of the canvas is a large dark blue flower, and above it some waves of smaller grass with more colourful streaks of sky blue, orange and viridian. Jane, by Marina Devlin, shows a woman in a pink sari with gold trim standing on a large pink lotus flower in the water of a lake or a pond. She has long black hair and 4 arms, 2 of which are facing downward and slightly toward the viewer, and the other 2 hold up pink flowers at shoulder height. Her extra arms and a large golden headpiece and white halo very much say she's a supernatural being. Also in the water, in the background, are some lily pads and flowers. To the left a pair of swans, and to the right a jovial young white elephant. Further behind the water, to the left, is a tall dark tree, and from the centre to the right there are bushes and shrubs, with mountains peeking over them in the top right corner.